Welcome to the Sports Ticket with Kevin Gorg and Kendall Mark. We are over here at McGovern's Pub in downtown St. Paul. You get $3.50 Coors Lights if you show up while we're here from 5 to 6 or during game days, home game days I should say, 3:30 to 4:30. And Gorg isn't with me today. Instead, I have Lord Schweitz from Wild Wednesdays on the show today. And I know you really wanted me to call you that, so that's why I did it, Scott.
I know. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the show. I like to welcome people in the most obnoxious way possible.
Exciting. You could have probably done worse than that, but I'll take it.
But I'll take it. And Gorg, we've got you on the phone. You are heading to Canterbury to talk about a seminar for the Breeders' Cup. What's going on?
Yeah, it should be fun. You know, big weekend out at Canterbury, big weekend nationally with ponies, and it's kind of the Super Bowl horse racing. It's the World Championship. It's Friday and Saturday from Keeneland Racetrack in Lexington, where all the horse farms are, where all the expensive horses retire to and breed, and it's the first time ever at Keeneland Racetrack. And so we're going to have a seminar tonight out at Canterbury. It'll go till 9 o'clock. Paul Allen will be a part of this, myself, Angela Herman, the track analyst, and it should be a lot of fun. There's 13 races. There's 4 races on Friday, and then there's 9 more big races on Saturday, culminating with the Breeders' Classic, which goes off around 4:30 here in the cornfields. And, of course, we lost Beholder, one of the favorites in the race that we have, the Triple Crown winner, American Pharoah, in that race. We'll get a deep dive into our Breeders' Cup analysis a little later here in the podcast, but it should be a fun night tonight for me, being out of Canterbury, which is kind of my old stomping ground.
Yeah, it should be a fun night. And, you know, we had talked about this a little bit last night, Scott, but how I was heading to check out Hazeltine today, right, for work. So
yeah,
that's not to be confused with the rehab center.
Not to be confused with the rehab center. Thank you for clarifying that for everyone. The
listeners out there might be concerned that you have a problem. Not that she doesn't, but I mean, I
don't know one way or the other, and it could have happened. But let's say that we believe her that she was at the golf course.
We did have to clarify last night, Kevin, that the snorting that she was doing was actually a laughter snort as opposed to another kind of snort. So really want to make sure we clarify the Hazeltine thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Anyway, what I was saying that was so important that you interrupted was that I was at Hazeltine National Golf Links in Chaska, where I do the producing and the anchoring for airviews.com, and we basically went out there and did a Ryder Cup preview. It was super awesome. For everybody who doesn't really know what the Ryder Cup is that might be listening, it comes to the U.S. every 4 years. It's an every other year thing. 1 year it'll be in Europe, then they won't have a year, and then they'll have it here in the U.S. and they won't have a year. So it's super amazing that this huge tournament is going on right here just outside of the Twin Cities in Chaska. They've hosted the PGA in 2002 and in 2009, so they've kind of done this before. And for fans that haven't been out there in years, they completely redid the clubhouse after the 2009 the PGA Tour went out there in 2009, and for the Ryder Cup, I mean, everything out there is Ryder Cup everything. Like, it's like you can't miss the fact that they're hosting it in 2016. And what we were doing was we were doing a little bit of a preview of it. So we got to interview the superintendent of the course and the Ryder Cup director, and they're super excited. And what I guess people don't really know is that they've been working on this and getting the course ready and getting everything outside of the course for like 5 years. I mean, it's this huge process. Like, right now, there's this big dirt pit right outside of the course, and you kind of walk up, and you're like, what the heck is that? Because it's huge, and it's actually going to be an outdoor tent with restaurants, bars, TVs in it, and it's the same square footage-wise as, like, the 18-hole course. Like, it's this massive endeavor because people from all over the world come to this thing, and really excited that we got to do that. We'll be flying a drone out there looking over the course and kind of doing a sort of, like, time-lapse video for the next few months, so it got me really, really, really excited for it. Like, I don't know how I'm going to finagle tickets, but I feel like I need to finagle tickets. And, I mean, you're a big golf guy, Gorg, so can you speak on that, about how big of a deal it is that we have that here in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's just like a major. If not, maybe even more important than a major, because, you know, you get 4 majors a year, where, as you mentioned, the Ryder Cup's every other year, and it's just been such a great spectacle of sport. And you go back to that unbelievable rally that the U.S. had way back in Boston in the late 90s, and you look at some of the great matches lately where Europe's really kind of taking control of the Ryder Cup. This is a world event. It's an event that everybody follows, and golf has become such a world game. And you can thank players like Tiger Woods for that, and now Rory McIlroy and Jordan Spieth, and some of these great young players are kind of taking the baton when Tiger's kind of fallen off the landscape as far as top-notch golf goes. But the event itself is second to none. And tickets are going to be hard to come by if you're here locally in the cornfields of Minnesota. You're going to want to be a part of this thing. It's really unique when you see that, people are painting their faces, they're waving flags. Not your typical golf event. There's noise on the course, there's tailgating, there's a lot of drinking, and it is super emotional. The swings that happen day in and day out, each match, the pivotal points that are available. If you haven't seen it in person, it's really something you're going to want to be a part of. And we're less than a year away, so pretty cool that you were out there, Kendall, and Hazeltine's always been such a great host to big golf events. This one will be its biggest.
So, Scott, I mean, you kind of got really excited as soon as he said it's a loud drinking golf event.
I like any kind of loud drinking event. So if you can mix in, and I like golf too. I mean, I'm not the serious type golfer. I'm the one that likes to, have the cooler. I have a cooler in my bag, which is great.
That's good.
Like it actually is mixed in. It has little holes for drainage. So it almost encourages me to sneak beers on the course. I'm sorry to all you cart girls out there that have said, no, I'm good. But it is. I mean, I have a good friend at work who he went out to Wisconsin to watch, the PGA Championship, Whistling Straits?
Yes.
Recently? So I hear a lot of...
Yeah, it was, because the U.S. Open was a disaster. That was at that weird course outside of Seattle, and then the PGA was in Kohler, Wisconsin, and it actually came across really, really well, I thought.
Yeah, so we talk golf at work, and he's to the obsession point where he has it on his iPad at work watching it live, and he is completely over the top about the Ryder Cup coming next year. He'll find a way to scalp tickets and get in there, but I mean it probably almost sounds like a Happy Gilmore-esque type of a vibe where people are going to be the not traditional golf clap crowd, but the ones that are will lose their minds and have a good old time, like Wii Fest but golf.
Like the hockey version of golf. Like I like the Happy Gilmore reference. That's a good analogy.
Bob Barker going to pull somebody's shirt over his head and start hitting him in the face?
Is there going to be an alligator? I'm confused.
Chubbs.
No, it was super cool to see today, and it was freezing. I might mention, it was so cold out there this morning. So I'm I've got to do a couple live shots where I'm sorry, not live shots, but things that I'll be seeing on camera. So I'm like, okay, I got to look decent today. I can't be totally bundled up. I swear to you, when I was shaking the hand of the director of the Ryder Cup, he was like, "Are you okay? Like, is there something wrong with you? Because my hand was so cold, it was ridiculous." But that's what life's like as a Minnesotan trying to golf. There are people out there golfing today, though. Crazy people.
Diehard, man. In this state, you're playing for the snow flies, and we're at the very end of our golf season. But it's exciting. I think that by the time we roll around to next summer, when golf season's back in full force, people will be pumped up about it, and it's great that Minnesota's got it. It's a really cool event, and I'm glad, Kendall, that you're a part of the pre-Ryder Cup activities, and absolutely you need to make plans to get out there, because it's one of those events that we probably won't see it back in this part of the country again anytime soon, so it's worth getting out there next fall.
I concur. And, just to kind of go off on a totally different subject, but I know that we talked about it a little bit last night, Scott, but we haven't talked about it yet, Gorg, with Jerry Kill and his immediate retirement from Gopher football and from football coaching in general. What did you think of all that? I mean, as someone who's kind of in the know with the coaching community and with the sports community here in Minnesota.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. I felt bad, and I had to make a decision back in 2007 to go full-time with my duties now at Fox Sports North and leave coaching, and completely different lens, certainly. But when Jerry Kill, kind of choked up during that press conference and said that a part of him died when he left that practice field yesterday, it certainly resonated with me, because there's nothing like coaching. And when you're coaching college kids and you're the one out there in the living room talking to their mom and dad, bringing these young athletes in, and really being a parental figure to them as they kind of transition from being boys in high school to being men in college, you're more than just a football coach. And you could tell yesterday when Coach Kill was speaking just how emotional that got. And I felt bad, because I know he didn't want to leave. And I know that he had put his heart and soul into the University of Minnesota's football program, and there have been some major strides that he and his staff had allowed that program to take, and there was certainly more work to be done. And I know this year probably wasn't exactly what Jerry had in mind, and I'm certain that he did not want to leave it the way he is. But he's got a great staff that will take over. They'll run the same system. These kids are familiar with this. They've been through that before when he had some of those epileptic seizures a couple of years ago and had missed some game time. But it just made me sad, Kendall. It's a tough deal to see somebody that young and still able to do their job at such a high level be forced to retire. And you can't replace being in that locker room and being a head football coach. You can't get that anywhere else. I know now that I'm out doing the thing I'm doing, and I love what I'm doing. But when I was the head coach of the St. Thomas women's hockey program, that minute before you take the ice and you walk in that room with your athletes and you can feel the nervous energy, and the kids are so excited to go out there and compete, I can only imagine what it's like when you're playing Division I football and you're the head coach and you're ready to take the field at the Big House in Michigan in front of 115,000 fans. That's got to be more than just exhilarating. And so I hope that he gets the help that he needs and gets it figured out, and I hope that the program can keep building towards something better because, as Gopher football fans go, and I'm one of them, you want to see this program remain relevant and get the bowl games and play on New Year's Day like they did last year. But it's a big loss for certain for all of us here in the Twin Cities, and it's tough to see.
Hey, Kevin, let me ask you this. Considering he brought in the majority of his staff, what do you think happens? Do you think that somebody within that staff is going to rise and take over, or are they going to bring somebody else in and, the potential of that person who's coming in would dismantle the staff and start over?
Great question, Scott. My gut instinct is they're probably going to bring somebody in. That's just how I feel. I think that in the Big Ten, you don't always, as assistant coaches, you get to take the program over. This is a unique situation, and Jerry Kill's probably going to have some say. And it's such a weird spot for the Gophers to be in right now as a program because they have an interim athletic director. So until that situation's resolved, I don't think you can make a football decision. And so the timing couldn't be worse, and there's nothing you can do about that. You want Jerry Kill to get healthy, and he has to do what he has to do for himself, but it's a mess. And I think the last handful of games here might have something to say with what they do, and the schedule is incredibly hard. They're going to be an underdog in all but one of these games. The Illinois game, they'll likely be favored, but other than that, they're going to be a substantial underdog like they are tomorrow against Michigan on on Saturday. They're a 13.5-point underdog. So it's a big hurdle to overcome, and my gut tells me they're going to bring somebody else in, but it would be great to see this staff kind of keep the ball going, pull up a couple of big upsets down the stretch, and maybe make a statement to the administration that they want to stick around. So I guess it remains to be seen.
It does remain to be seen. I think everybody would agree that's ever been around Jerry Kill or has been around Dinkytown and felt the excitement there at the bank that the state in general just wishes him the best and hopes that things work out for him and, that he can remain. I think everyone wants him to remain a part of the community in some capacity without hindering on his health, but we certainly wish him all the best. We're about to talk about the Wild a little bit, and somebody just walked in his nice, fancy police uniform, Mr. Tony Dean from Wild Wednesday. Say, hey. He gave me a thumbs up. I think that means shut up and leave me alone.
I think that's what that means.
I think that's what that means. Anyway, back to the Wild. He's just saying hello. He got to go.
Very busy.
He's busy protecting the city of St. Paul. Here, like I said, we are at McGovern's Pub here on 7th Street. It's getting loud in here. I like it. There's big groups.
There's two groups back here that are having a good time for happy hour.
We kind of wish that we were part of it. I mean, we are, but we're not. I mean,
maybe after the show. I don't know.
We've got Coors Light flowing. It's
fine. Go crash their party.
Yeah, we can go crash party. Hey, everybody who is here, it's 3:50 Coors Lights right now. Just so you know. Anywho, back to the Wild. I'll be at the game tomorrow night. I know that you'll be at the game, Gorg, when the Hawks come into town. What do you think about this Caner chanting that's been going on? Scott, Have you actually have you heard it in some of these other games that they played in?
They did it in Philly, and I think they did it in another arena too. But definitely, Philly for sure. It's just a real aggressive crowd in Philadelphia. But I suspect at some level it will show up tomorrow night.
Well, it will, and I think it started with the Islanders game very early in the year, and I get where the fans are coming from to a point. I understand there's animosity with your arch rival, especially here, considering what the Blackhawks have done to the Wild the last 3 years. It's a confusing situation because nobody knows what really happened, and if it really happened, then he deserves to go to jail. I'm a father of 3 daughters, and if that truly happened, and we don't know right now, and the legal process has not played out, then he deserves to go to jail. And if he gets chanted at, I don't care. Now, if he didn't do it, then I feel bad. Bottom line is Patrick Kane needs to put himself in better situations. No matter if this happened or it didn't right now, after what happened in the cab his rookie year when he got into kind of a drunken brawl with the cabbie over $1 tip and all that mumbo-jumbo, he's better than that. I've had a chance to talk to him and interview him a couple of times over the years, and he's been nothing but polite and cordial, and for a superstar, pretty down to earth. But the drinking and all the shenanigans, I get it. When you're a young kid in your early 20s, that's what you're supposed to be doing. But there's a time and a place for everything, and if you keep putting yourself in harm's way, and you've got that much at stake, and let's be honest, he's got millions of dollars at stake. He's got his livelihood at stake for many, many years. He's a young man. Someone's got to pull him aside and say, listen, young man, pull your head out of your tail, because this is not how you go being a superstar hockey player. There's better ways of doing it. And so it'll be interesting to see the reception for Kane. I'm certain the Wild fans are looking for some sort of revenge. It's really hard to get it in, an October game the year after getting swept in the playoffs, knowing that the team that took you down won the cup. But the Wild fans will be out for blood. And I guess the good news, Scotty, is tonight the Winnipeg Jets get to host the Blackhawks and hopefully play their typical in-your-face physical game. And maybe Corey Crawford plays tonight, and you wear that team down, and the Blackhawks come in with their backup goalie, Scotty Darling, and maybe come in a little battered and bruised, right?
Yeah, I did. I just was going to bring that up, and I'm not sure if that's better or not, considering what you saw Darling do in the playoffs last year. You think you are getting the backup, and they are going to be coming off a back-to-back, but Darling played real well in the playoffs last year against Nashville, so it's kind of like pick your poison. Obviously, Crawford's red hot right now. The Blackhawks have lost some personnel just because of cap room issues, but of course, every year they're a tough competitor, and it's going to be a challenge. And I think hopefully the Wild don't get in their own heads and come in and have the last 3 years of playoffs influence that. I'd hope it won't, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend. You get the Hawks at home on Friday. You get on to St. Louis and play the Blues on Saturday. So both the playoff series that the fans got to watch last year will play out this weekend in back-to-back fashion. It's kind of an old-school, college weekend series like we saw in the old WCHA. And so it's unique that you get a Friday game in your barn, a Saturday game on the road. It's going to feel almost like it's North Dakota, Minnesota, or Wisconsin, Minnesota, where they go back-to-back like that. Different teams, I get it, but a unique situation. And so I'm excited to watch the games. I always love watching Chicago compete. They're a terrific team, and they've got so many great players. Jonathan Toews, to me, is the epitome of what you want a captain to be, and I have so much respect for his game and the way he handles himself. And I remember talking to Jonathan Toews last year, the day after J.P. Parise passed away, and they asked us to go in the Blackhawks locker room with a camera and get some sound, and I could not believe the class that Toews and his teammates showed in this conversation on camera about Dak and his family and what JP had meant to Jonathan Toews and some of the guys that played down in Faribault at Shattuck when JP was a part of that program. And, Jonathan Toews is a superstar player that's interviewed everywhere he goes. He's a huge star in the game. And he had as much time for us as we needed. And you could tell what he was saying wasn't your typical cliches you get in the locker room. It was heartfelt. JP had an influence on his career, a real positive influence on his career, and the respect that he had for JP and for Zach Parise, I'll never forget it. And, Jonathan Toews, to me, he moved way up in my eyes when it comes to stock. And, you see it play out every year, the way that guy leads that hockey team. Who would want number 19 on their team?
Absolutely. One of the people, or a couple of the people they did lose, though, that our big impact guys, Patrick Sharp, Brandon Saad, Johnny Oduya, which I would love to have that guy on the Wild, just because I'd buy his jersey, and it was like one of my favorite like drunken like things to say when somebody played. I'm like, oh, he hit him. Who did? He did. Oduya, and it was like it's kind of any like, you want him on your team? Oduya. It was like it was always the follow up line. I mean, it's childish, but whatever. So he's gone. He went to Dallas, and the guy's from I think he's from Sweden. I mean, of all places, so you don't really think that he would be from there. But and they lost Duncan Keith to an injury. So, I mean, they're not just depleted with having to trade people away, but now Duncan Keith, their main defenseman, their Norris Trophy, he's down. So, I mean, they are a little depleted, so hopefully the Wild can take advantage early here in the season.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. And sorry to interrupt, Kendall. They're 6-1, and I'll let you take over, Kendall, but they've yet to play a 60-minute game. I think we've got a pretty good hockey team here, and I think that once they find their feet and start to be a little more consistent, I think they're good enough to get home ice this year and maybe make a run at winning this. I'm really very, very excited about where this team is headed.
Absolutely. I'm going to let Kendall talk because every time we start talking,
I'm wondering
she's going to get feisty soon, and I don't want to hear that.
What
is it? It's Dinky Town Ghetto. Dinky Town Ghetto will come out and stuff will be thrown. Careful, you who sit nearby here.
It's such a soft ghetto. It's nice. It's just little things like
finger snapping.
I'm gonna speak on that and stuff like that. But I can't remember his name. What's 86 for the Hawks? He's like starts with a T. He's the young guy. He's like a little mini Kaner.
Yeah, he scored that backbreaking goal in the playoff game last year that the Wild had the lead in, or came back in the game, and then they tied it. It was game one. I don't know who you're thinking of. I can't place the name either.
Teravainen? Is that his name?
Teravainen.
Oh, there you go. Teravainen. Yeah. Well done.
I originally thought you were confusing with Tarasenko, but yeah, Teravainen.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not an idiot. I appreciate it, though.
Wow. Aggressive again.
Aggressive again. No, I really am curious to see how his level of play is going to pick up this year. I thought he was, not that I'm a Hawks fan, but I did think that he was fun to watch last year. You didn't really know what you were going to get with him. And because he's 86, you'd get confused with Kane because he's 88, and they skate so similarly, and they have these same little crazy tricks. I'm excited to see him again. I don't like him in I like the team way. I like to watch him as a fan of the sport. Does that make sense? You know what I mean, Gork. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It makes sense. He's a very elusive kid. He's not quite, to the level of a Patrick Kane yet. You can see that there's potential for him to be that player. He's got great hands. He's got great rink vision, and I think last year just kind of scraping the surface with what he could do and his responsibilities. They kind of eased him in, and one was the type of coach where you got to earn your stripes, and so he's still trying to get to that level. But he's got the tools to be a Patrick Kane-esque type of player if he continues to progress. And he was a thorn in the side of the Wild in that series. He didn't score often, but when he did score, they were big goals. And it's always fun when the Blackhawks come to town. I mean, it's an event. They are the best team in the league. They're the dynasty team right now, even with the players they lost, and even with Duncan Keith out of the lineup. There's still a handful of players that you'd call star players on that roster. And I think that the Wild are in a good spot right now because they're for the most part healthy. They've got, in my opinion, one of the best blue lines in the Western Conference, if not the league. They've got really good weapons on the back end that are now starting to get the confidence to join the rush. And there can be some bad matchups. And I was in between the benches for the Edmonton game, and Ryan Suter, Marco Scandella, both kind of jumped into a couple different situations where they were able to turn a even number situation into an offensive odd number situation, and they're cashing in the goals. They're going to be one of the highest scoring blue lines in the league, even though I don't think any one of them is going to be in the talk of outscoring other defensemen throughout the league as far as top point getter goes. You got 4 or 5 guys back there that can make an imprint on the offense. It's kind of fun.
But if you just look at the people that scored in the Edmonton game, I mean, Suter with 2, Scandella with a. I mean, I thought that was just a silky smooth goal with Vanek feeding him and him getting that nice tip. It's not something you traditionally see, and I got to give credit to Tony Dean. He said he almost looked Burns-esque, and it really kind of tugged on my heartstrings because I love Burns, but I was like, that is Burns-esque. I mean, being able to to release from the traditional blue line, get up and join the rush, and contribute offensively. We do have defensemen that can do that. And I think that they're starting to – the maturation process of our young defensemen are starting to pay dividends with Brody.
Yeah, you can see it.
Dumba officially. But Spurge. Spurge is a great guy that can come up into the offense. Scandella once in a while. Suter's not typically known for his offense, but putting in a couple goals. I think that one wrister took the goalie by surprise the other night, but we'll take it. But I'm hoping that we can continue our defensive dominance, because we've got away from that a little bit early here in the season, and I think our goaltenders have been exposed. What do you think?
Yeah, the Winnipeg game was the biggest red flag for me. We just there was way too much open space and way too many turnovers in the neutral zone. That's the one area that Mike Yeo and the coaching staff always talks about, that it can be a killer. If you turn the puck over in the neutral zone in this league, even the bigger teams like Winnipeg have enough speed and skill to bury it. And exposed is a big word. I think that Devin Dubnyk. I think everybody's expecting him. He played so well down the stretch. He was in such a zone in the second half last year that it's just going to be push-button, and you're going to start the year and it's going to be just like it was last year. He's been good. He hasn't been great yet. He's been good. But goaltending is a unique position. It takes time to get into that rhythm, to get into that flow, and he'll have a stretch of dominance this year, I'm certain. But the big question mark for the Wild is after Devin Dubnyk, can Darcy Kemper be the consistent number 2 guy that you need? And we saw one really good game in L.A. and one not so good game up in Winnipeg. And I think from talking to Mike Yeo this week at the rink, it sounds like they're leaning towards playing Dubnyk tomorrow night against Chicago and then coming back with Kemper in St. Louis on Saturday. This will be a big start for Darcy Kemper. And he didn't play awful early in that game. He didn't get a lot of help, but he was awful on the fourth goal. That goal could not go in at the NHL level. The goalie just didn't get his pad down on the ice and ended up being a 1-goal game. And that was the difference in the game. And so, no, I think exposed for me is more about the depth, and you don't want to just have one guy that can win you a game. You want to have that second guy that can get in there. And I look, Cam Talbot in New York last year with the Rangers when Lundqvist went down and spent a great deal of time away from the rink. Cam Talbot kept the ball going. He had a run where I think he was 10-2-1 in a 13-game stretch, and that's probably why Edmonton brought him in now to be their main guy. We need Darcy Kemper to be a consistently good number 2 option for this team to have a chance to get home ice, to have a chance to contend for a division title. And you look at this division, guys, and Chicago, who is the best team in the league on paper, is a 6-point team in this division. It just tells you how good it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe we've got 13 points and we're still 4th in the division. That's like, how do you go up? I don't understand. These teams obviously just have to start losing.
Well, the Central Division it is stacked and always will be. I don't want to say it's unfair, but in comparison how they have the structure set up, we saw it last year that you're going to have a potential West Coast team that's going to get in ahead of a Central Division team that is better as far as standings and points go. And you're playing top league talent the majority of the time. So it is a tough go. You think that that's going to better prepare you for come playoff time, but you are going to have a tougher time through the season going through that gauntlet.
Yeah. Please don't judge me. I saw you looking at my olives.
There's no
Clark,
olives.
I just ordered one of those 350 Coors Lights because we love Coors Lights, and I like Coors Light with olives because I'm from the sticks. I don't know if that's not a thing.
I don't have the sticks have to do anything with olives.
Maybe. Maybe I'm confusing it with that tomato juice thing.
The clamato? Like if you can have like a Bloody Caesar?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think that's a Nebraska thing.
I don't know.
So I've learned. I don't know. Or North Dakota is somewhere more north than me right now.
And you're putting it in a glass. Obviously, you have to put the olives in the glass.
Well, yeah. What am I going to do? Yes,
I do think it's funny when people take beers and they put them into glass. Like they won't drink out of the bottle.
I'll drink out of a bottle. I just want the olives.
Okay, I got you.
No,
Could you put the olive in the bottle like a Corona? Like a Corona does a lime?
It in there? That just defeats the whole point. It's like an appetizer this way if you have your beer this way.
Gotcha.
And this is something I just discovered, Gorg, too, is, I'm discovering things all the time here at McGovern's, but I never knew that they had popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
And, If you have popcorn,
popcorn,
yes, and it's good and it's salty. And to me, like, if you don't have popcorn and you are a bar and restaurant, especially a sports bar and restaurant with like a million TVs, you've failed miserably. Because where I'm from, if you don't have a popcorn machine, people don't go there.
I'm going to give you a Dinkytown reference. I used to go to Williams and throw peanuts on the ground.
You did.
I mean, that was.
You mean an Uptown reference?
Isn't? Oh, that is Uptown.
Yeah, that's an
Uptown. I keep confusing the Dinkytown and the
keep
Uptown.
confusing my people.
I'm a St. Paul person, so we don't like to go west of the river.
I'm with you on that. I'm a St. Paul guy all the way. I'll venture into Minneapolis when I need to, but I'm most comfortable. I think maybe it's my St. Thomas background. I'm most comfortable.
Yeah, I'm a Tommy. I'm a pioneer and a Tommy, so I'd like to stay over on this side of the Twin
What
Cities.
a good combo that is. Good Catholic boy. Look at that.
That's right.
Good Catholic boy.
That's why we don't like going to Minneapolis.
Absolutely.
It's too heathen
like
for you?
Like the Antichrist
it's
over
too
there.
Lutheran over there for you? I don't know.
That might be aggressive.
So my good Catholic boy, I have just a question for you related to the Wild. Can you tell me a little bit about how you feel about the Parise line? Grandy doesn't score. Pominville doesn't score. What do we do?
See, Granlund not scoring is not as concerning to me as Pominville. I mean, Pominville, and I read an article today about other people in the league that, I mean, like Cody Hodgson has not scored a goal yet. He doesn't have a point through 9 games. But it is concerning with Pominville having this slow start, and I mean, this is Tony Dean's like soapbox, but Mike Yeo does not make moves to certain lines with veterans, and I will agree that maybe some moves need to be made with Pominville's lack of production. Parise is doing what he does. Pominville does have 5 assists, but he's not putting the puck in the net, so I don't know if something's going to have to be done to spark that. There was talk last night about maybe doing a swap out, bringing down Pominville to play with Vanek, with Howla on the pivot, and then bringing Coyle up to the first line. Coyle plays well against the wall. He's a good feed guy. He obviously can score. Maybe would be a nice complement to that line, but it is a touchy thing when you have a veteran on a contract that's making good money. You don't want to, affect the feel in the locker room and have anybody feel slighted. I don't know, Kevin, what you think about that. I mean, obviously you're around the locker room and the players far more, but do you think something has to be done in order to spark his play? I don't know.
Yeah, Pominville's he's an enigma for me because, this is a guy they're paying over $5 million to, and it's a guy a couple of years ago scored 30 goals. And, last year you could see the decline in his game a little bit, and if you're playing with Granlund and Parise, you're supposed to score. I mean, Granlund's as good a playmaker as there is on the roster, and Zach Parise is their best player. So you're going to fall into goals in that spot. I know he had a crossbar in his most recent game. He's had some chances, but the puck's not going in. I know it's bothering him. And I know he's working hard, but it is a concern. And at some point, if he sits on the donut here for another week or two, Mike Yo's going to have to make a move. I mean, his hands are going to be tied. I know he doesn't want to, and I think part of it is the veteran angle. You're right. I think Tony Dean, I've seen all his stuff on Twitter. I get that opinion. I certainly respect that opinion. Mike Yo's got a job to do, and he knows best what is going to keep that locker room in balance in his eyes. But at some point, like I said, if you're going to be on a wing with Parise on one side and Granlund in the middle, you are going to have to score goals. That is the bottom line, and he's still not finding the net. And so it's a bit of a concern. We are, still fairly early in the season, but, give another week here. You got 4 more games in the next week. You got the 2 games this weekend and then 2 more home games next week. If the puck's still not going in then, I think Mike Gill might be forced to make a move, and I like the Coyle angle on that line. Gives you a real physical guy because Granlund's not overly physical. You don't want Zach doing all the dirty work, so Coyle could take some pressure off him on the wall to your point, Scott. But I like the depth this team has, so there are options. And, as we approach the halfway point of the podcast here, it's something to watch for fans over the weekend. The Jason Pominville goal watch, and it's not a joke. It's legit. He's got to find the net here real soon and got to get his game up to speed. And he's on the first power play. He's on the first line. Everybody knows the drill. They got a role to play, and his role is pretty clear. Put the puck in the net. Before we get into fantasy football and then the Breeders' Cup, Kendall, I know at the halfway point of the show, we got to get you to promote other great shows here on the Alive and Social Network. And since I'm in my car in the parking lot of Canterbury Park, I'll let you take lead vocal.
Yes, sir. I can do that. Well, I mean, instead of me reading off of a piece of paper a show that I should, talk about because we love them, Why don't you talk a little bit about your show, Scott? I really genuinely had a really good time on the show yesterday. What did we do, like an 2-hour show?
It was very long. It was probably longer than it should have been. But we had some other things to talk about. I think we touched on the the Flip Saunders effect in how the impact he put in the state of Minnesota, and we do have different topics week to week, but primarily we talked the NHL. It's a great show down at Bennett's. We love to have people come down, tweet in their questions, break down what's happened, what's going to happen, just like we touched on with the Pominville situation. And the greatest part about it is week to week, it can be kind of roller coaster-esque because we could be riding high, going 3-0, or you could go 0-4, and then all of a sudden people in the media, maybe not the media, but people on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, they're losing their minds, and that they're wanting to start doing a fire sale. So you do get the spectrum of emotions. And myself being a season ticket holder now for 10 years, I understand that you can't do that knee-jerk kind of responses. You have to just be with the team, through and through. But it is funny from my end to see how people just react so intensely.
I thought it was, I think the part, I've listened to you guys' show before, and so I knew that you guys had chemistry, but I thought it was so fun actually seeing it in person, seeing you and Sarah go back and forth, and then Tony chime in, and Tony going on one of his rants. It's one of the funniest things ever. So if you're an NHL fan, if you're a Wild fan, if you just like listening to people talk the talk and talk shit with each other, it's hilarious. Tune into their show Wednesdays at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We're over at Bennett's Live if you ever are in St. Paul and want to go over there. I made an appearance last night. It was pretty fun. Everybody made fun of me. I made fun of Scott. It was a pretty good time.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of laughs. It's Wild Wednesdays. I think you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can on the Alive and Social Network.com. You can find us if you look at iTunes. You just look for Wild Wednesdays. It's pretty much all over the place. And we like taking the questions because obviously you guys out there listening are the ones that that are driving what we do. So just as this show is the same way, we love to have our listener input.
Totally. It was so eloquent how you ended it that way. Our listener input.
Yeah.
You're very well spoken. Thanks, Scott. But another show that I just want to preach about a little bit is the Your Geek Show. I absolutely love listening to people's perspective. I don't get to go out to watch a lot of the movies that I want to see. I like music, but I'm not a huge music buff, but I like being around people who are music buffs. Pop culture, same deal. The only information I ever get is information that might be on Twitter. And if you think the same things and you kind of want to see it through, not the perspective of maybe the popular girl in school, but the geek perspective, this is the show that you want to listen to. I mean, it's three people. Anytime you get three people together, just like right here, two guys and a lady, things can get kind of funny and hilarious. I like to think that, at least. If you're interested in anything like that, music, movies, pop culture, tune in to Your Geek Show. They're on the Alive and Social Network. Otherwise, it is on Saturdays at 11 a.m. So now that we're done with that, we talked a little bit about how we want to talk about fantasy football. Gorg, this is your moment. What do I do? Tell me.
Well, again, it's Thursday, and we've got season ticket holders here on the sports ticket that demand certain staples on our program, and they want to see Kendall live and in the flesh at Patrick Evans Pub, which they are right now. They want to have those 350 Coors Lights, and they also want to have the 5 players you can bench and the 5 players that you can bank on this weekend in fantasy football. And I hope that our season ticket holders are going to listen to this show in time, because we've got a game tonight, and I've got a couple of players, one on each side of the ledger, before that 7:30 kickoff up in New England with the Patriots hosting the Dolphins. Let's get to the bad side of the ledger. Let's get to the guys you don't want on your roster. If you're in a full-season league like Kendall is with her Chicas, you got to bench these guys. If you're going to do a daily fantasy football game this weekend, these are players to avoid. We'll start at the quarterback position. Andrew Luck. He went in the first round in a lot of drafts. He has not had a first-round year. He's in off back-to-back 3 touchdown performances. It ain't going to happen this week. At Carolina, that defense is fast and ferocious. The offensive line for Indy cannot stop them. No time for Andrew Luck. Not a good fantasy night for him. Latavius Murray, good running back out in Oakland. He went early. Top 10 running back in most fantasy football drafts. Bad matchup this week. Jets run defense, top 5 in the league. They don't give up touchdowns. Bench Latavius Murray. Jordan Cameron plays tonight for Miami. They're going to be down double digits. The Patriots are going to be schooling them. Oh, my goodness. Miami's back. They got a new coach. They're going to be in garbage time throwing the football. They don't throw it to this guy, Jordan Cameron, a bench. New England very good against the tight end. Avoid Jordan Cameron. Johnny Brown plays for the Arizona Cardinals. He looked great last week. He looked even better 2 weeks ago. He's going against a good Cleveland defense, and he's going to be playing in likely bad weather in Cleveland. Avoid John Brown. And right now, Eddie Lacy, I'm not even sure he's going to get the lion's share of the carries against Denver. Sunday Night Football, avoid Eddie Lacy. If you can get Starks off the waiver wire, get him. Now the 5 to bank on. These are players you want on your daily fantasy team. If you've got them on your roster, you want to play them. Tom Brady tonight, it's free money, guys. Tom Brady will have a minimum of 3 touchdown passes, maybe 4 or 5. He has owned the Dolphins, specifically in New England, and I love a new coach getting his feet wet and going against Belichick for the first time. You can bet me Belichick is going to teach Coach Campbell a thing or two tonight. Bank on Tom Brady being the highest-scoring quarterback in fantasy football this week. Chris Johnson, I cannot believe, Kendall, I'm touting Chris Johnson, but he's going to tap dance into the end zone at least once for Arizona. That will be a running game at Cleveland. Arizona's favored. Chris Johnson's going to get the ball. Cleveland, the number 2 defense on the wrong side of the ledger. Second most fantasy points given up in fantasy football to number 1 running back. Chris Johnson's getting the start. You got to start him as well. Witten in Dallas, tight end in Dallas. We've been raving about tight ends against Oakland. Don't forget about tight ends against Seattle. Oakland's number 1 in giving up tight end points in fantasy football. You wouldn't think it, but Seattle is number 2. 5 touchdowns already given up by their defensive tight ends. Witten's going to get one this weekend. The last player I'm going to talk about, Martavius Bryant, Pittsburgh wide receiver, Ben Roethlisberger, back in the fold. Big Ben means big throws, big yards. Bryant is the game breaker. Him and Brown both going to have big games. Bryant gets overlooked, and I forgot about Dougie Martin. I had 5 you need to bank on. Dougie Martin, number 5. Running back Tampa Bay, Atlanta's run defense, horrible in fantasy football. Dougie Martin, at least 1 touchdown, over 100 yards, guys.
That was aggressive, by the way. Like that, you did a lot of research, and there was there even a breath in there? Because that was aggressive. I loved it. That was nice.
I came up for one.
That was
came up for air once. Hey, you mentioned this. I did something because you told me to do it on Monday, and I just need to be like, I need affirmation that having Jeff Cumberland is a good idea, right?
Well, we've been talking about it all year long, and other than 1 week this year, Oakland's defense has given up a tight end touchdown. And Cumberland, as we joked about on the Monday show on our podcast, has 3 catches all year. He did have 1 catch last week against New England, who doesn't give up a lot of tight ends, and he is their starting tight end, and they are playing the Oakland Raiders. And the Raiders, on average, this is the average for the season, are giving up 92 yards to tight ends and 1.2 touchdowns. So on that alone, if you're desperate because of the bye week, if you've got an injury at that position, I'm not saying you're going to start Cumberland over a guy like Greg Olsen or even a guy like Kyle Rudolph, but if you're desperate for a tight end, Cumberland, Jets tight end, he's available on basically 100% of leagues right now on the waiver wire. If you're desperate for a tight end, yes, plug him in against the gift that continues to give the Oakland Raider defense against tight ends.
And, I'm putting him in instead of Martellus Bennett. What do you say?
No.
No, but
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's foolish.
No.
But-
Stop the madness. Stop the madness.
I had
Martellus
so
Bennett.
much faith.
No, that's
You're
not a good
crazy.
idea. Yeah.
God, fine.
How about a couple here? Let me throw a couple potential sleepers at
Yeah,
you.
please
Not even
speak,
sleepers.
because clearly I'm an idiot.
I'm gonna give you a couple that I've done some research on and just wonder what your take is. Antonio Andrews, not for the long haul, but just for this week. For Tennessee running back. Obviously,
Yeah, I like him.
I mean, maybe in the short term, not because I think he's probably going to lose his spot when Cobb comes back. But I mean, just for this week, I think he might, be a fill-in guy if somebody has some bye week players.
If you need any affirmation on video, go back and watch what Lamar Miller did to that Texas defense last week. 179 all-purpose yards, 2 touchdowns. They couldn't stop him. The Texans' defense is diseased right now, especially against the run. I think that's a sneaky good start. And Andrews is a guy, too, on daily fantasy that's super cheap. So that's a very nice sleeper. Not a name that you're going to want on your roster, as you mentioned, Scotty, the rest of the year, because I think when Cobb comes back, he was a player that they really in the preseason wanted to get a good look at. And they're going to give him a chance, probably starting in week 9 or 10 to get that job back. But for now, with the Texans on the horizon, that's a great play.
How about Marvin Jones? Marvin Jones, wide receiver, Cincinnati Bengals, coming off the bye week. I mean, there's a lot of receivers, a lot of mouths open in Cincinnati, but Marvin Jones seems to be a guy that, even with a crowded wideout core, is still going to be a guy that's going to be able to get you some points.
Yeah, A.J. Green's going to draw the big attention in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a high-scoring game. At least it looks that way on paper. And a little nugget on your guy Marvin Jones, who I think is a really interesting play this week, is in the last 2 weeks he's had 20 targets before the bye there. So that's an average of 10 targets a game. And Marvin Jones is a guy who did score 4 touchdowns in one game a year ago. So he's the guy that, because A.J. Green demands so much attention, and now with Tyler Eifert, their tight end, developing into a top 5 tight end, he on the defensive side of the ledger is the third or fourth thing they're thinking about, which means he'll be single covered. He has speed to go deep, and the way Andy Dalton's playing, he's putting up an MVP year right now. I think Marvin Jones in a daily league, or if you've got him on your roster, is a very, very good start.
I got one more, and then before Kendall starts giving me bad looks, and this is a deep sleeper. This is one that obviously maybe he had a great week last week, but from what I've read, he might emerge in a crowded backfield. Orleans Darkwa.
Yeah, the Giants, man. What a weird backfield
that's exactly the reaction. Her reaction is the exact reaction I've received from everybody I've talked to about him.
Huh?
Nobody knows who he is, so if you're out there and he's available, it might be a good stash play, because everything I've seen, the guy is a juggernaut, and he might pass up Rashid Jennings and the rest of that backfield, and Andre Williams to take over that Giants running game.
I don't know if I like saying Orleans Darkwa or watching Orleans Darkwa better, but I do know that the guy I'm playing in my big money fantasy league, our Canterbury Fantasy Football League, actually picked him up off the waiver wire, and he's starting him against me, and I'm very concerned because Tom Coughlin this week at practice has said that he's had great energy and they like his versatility. So I do think the Giants are going to give him a look. Now, there are 3 or 4 guys they're rotating through there, but Shane Vereen is really only a passing back and a third down back. So Darkwa's going to get some looks not only throughout the balance of the drive, he's going to get some looks in the red zone. The problem in the red zone for a guy like me that's playing against Darkwa is when they get down inside the 20, they're putting 2 and 3 players on Odell Beckham Jr., and they're not thinking about the run because the Giants are more of a pass-first team. And so, yeah, absolutely. Darkwa's a guy that indoors against Atlanta in a game that figures to be a track meet, he's a sneaky start, no doubt about it.
That's all I got.
That's it? That's it for you?
That's it for fantasy. We got to talk some Breeders' Cup before I head into the seminar in about 8-10 minutes, Kendall. I know that for a lot of people like you two guys over at Patrick McGovern and a lot of our listeners out there, horse racing is not something we're going to dive into on a regular basis here. It may be a part of my background and a big part of my broadcasting career, but horse racing comes around a couple times a year for the general public, the general sporting fans. It's Kentucky Derby weekend, and it's Breeders' Cup weekend. And sometimes, like last year, if you get a horse like American Pharoah trying to run into the history books and go down to the Triple Crown, you get him on Belmont weekend. The horse racing is certainly a niche sport, but this weekend, with the Breeders' Cup, NBC covering it, it is going to be front and center. It should be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about it. So I think I know the basics enough. I think a little bit more than probably the average Joe who doesn't know anything about horse racing, but having worked out at Canterbury and knowing all the crew around there, I know a little bit about it. Basically, when you look at just, for people who aren't as interested, just the monetary side of it, more than $150 million. That's right, $150 million will be wagered over the 2 days of the Breeders' Cup. I mean, that is astronomical amounts of money to me for people who don't really know what this is all about.
Yeah, it's a great wagering opportunity, and with that $150 million at the back, that doesn't tell the entire story. The way that horse racing has evolved in the last 15, 20 years to where now you have 10-cent superfectas, which, a 10-cent superfecta is the first 4 finishers in perfect order, which sounds daunting, but when you can make 10 times fast, you can have so many different combinations that it's almost like playing a mini lottery. And we've seen 10-cent superfectas pay six figures, or it's over $100,000 in the Breeders' Cup.
Wow.
Because the Breeders' Cup is the best of the best. These are giant fields. All the horses have to have unbelievable talent to get to their starting gate. And so upsets happen in the Breeders' Cup. And so the 10-cent superfectas are cool. The 50-cent trifectas, the $1 pick four, the $1 pick five, the $1 pick six, the 50-cent pick fours. I mean, there are so many small bets that pay hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars that even if you don't know a lot about horse racing, you can come out to your local racetrack, and we're out here in Shakopee, Canterbury, and the windows already are open today here on Thursday for the weekend of races. You don't have to know a lot. You can recognize some of the names of the jockeys and the trainers. You can pick your favorite horse names out. You can take your favorite numbers and wheel them. It doesn't matter, and it's so much fun to watch, and all the races are on either NBC Sports Network or NBC all weekend long. And yeah, the Classic is the one race where you'll see SportsCenter run a highlight package. You'll see SportsCenter interview the winning trainer or jockey, and that race is Saturday around 4:30 here in the cornfields of the Twin Cities. But it's more than just that, and I think because American Pharoah is in the biggest race, which happens Saturday at 4:30, the Classic, I think more people this year are going to come to the Breeders' Cup as far as attention goes.
And this is, I mean, obviously the Triple Crown, but he could also go for the Grand Slam. You know, he's a 4-5 favorite, $5 million purse, but can take, you know, the bragging rights away with the Grand Slam, as they call it. So, I mean, that would be something, obviously, that the media is going to love.
Yeah, I agree. I think. No, go ahead. You're the horse racing guy. You go ahead.
Well, it's the first chance we've had to see a so-called Grand Slam because the Breeders' Cup wasn't in the fold the last time we had a Triple Crown winner. That's how long it's been. It was 37 years, the late 70s, and the Breeders' Cup didn't come into existence until the 80s. And so to win the three races of the Triple Crown, the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, and to stay in good form and to stay healthy and be ready to go in the fall for the biggest race of the year as far as money goes in the $5 million Classic is a big deal. And Beholder was the biggest, I think, favorite or co-favorite as far as danger goes to American Pharoah, and his odds went from 6-5 to, as Scott mentioned, 4-5 when Beholder got sick and had to scratch this morning, so she will not be running. So what was a 10-horse field is now a 9-horse field. But inside the game, as far as handicapping the actual Classic goes, Beholder had early speed. He was a horse that likes to be on or near the lead. American Pharoah is a front runner that figures to dictate the race like he has in so many other wins that he's had. Now she's out. Now the front end is probably going to be his and his alone. And in horse racing, if you can find the front with nobody to bother you or slow you down, you can ration the fractions, conserve energy, and have far more to give when they turn for home. Now, I do think somebody will emerge out of the crowd because the other jockeys and trainers realize that if they just all sit back on their hands, American Pharoah can run them into the ground. He's the most talented horse in the starting gate. That cannot be refuted. So the race within the race is, will somebody go? And if they go, are they cannibalizing their own chances? And if they go, will American Pharoah be able to withstand that early pressure and still hold off some really nice horses? So it's going to be very fascinating. He is, without a doubt, the number one horse to watch this weekend, and it's his last race ever. This is your last chance to watch American Pharoah run. They've already announced he'll retire to stud and start making babies next year. So this is it. And I think he's got a great chance to win. But if I'm betting money, which I certainly am this weekend, I will be betting against him. And I'm going to take a shot with a horse that he's beaten a couple times already this year, including the Belmont earlier in the campaign at the end of the Triple Crown. And the horse's name is Frosted. Before we get to my analysis on Frosted, our producer Aaron has one of the most exciting stretch drives in the history of horse racing, and here it is.
And they're into the stretch, and American Pharoah makes his run for glory as they come into the final furlong. Frosted is second with 1/8 of a mile to go. American Pharoah's got a two-length lead. Frosted is all out at the 16th pole, and here it is. The 37-year wait is over. American Pharoah is finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
Chills. That is so cool. That's pretty amazing.
That was fun.
That was pretty amazing. You know, you talked about someone that the horse that you think could beat American Pharoah. I talked, lovely. I love him. Jeff Madej out there at Canterbury. He knows his stuff when it comes to horse racing too. And he told me he thinks to beat American Pharoah, a good option would be Tonalist. Am I saying that's Tonalist is the horse, right? He's 6-1. He's 6-1.
Yep,
I mean, right now.
On.
Right.
And Tonalist has big figures. He's run big races. Jeff Scout is legit. He is one of the top contenders in this race. My knock against Tonalist is his biggest races and his best wins have all been in the state of New York, which is kind of his home base. He ran this race last year out in California and struggled, but I think Keeneland, shorter trip and I think more favorable when it comes to similar as far as weather goes situations out there, might be more to his liking. He likes to lay off the pace and make one run starting in the far turn, and if somebody goes out there and dares to challenge American Pharoah early, Tonalist at 6-1 is a very, very good option. I like Frosted. He's 15-1 on the morning line. He's got enough speed, I think, to stay within shouting distance. He'll get a closer look at the favorite when they turn for home than probably Tonalist will be coming from the back of the pack. And I think Frosted, who ran a really good race in the Travers Stakes when he went eyeball to eyeball with Pharoah and ended up running a close third, he's sitting on the best race of his career. His trainer, Kieran McLaughlin, is red hot right now. Everything he puts on the track out of Keeneland has been running. And I want to see Pharoah do it as far as my heart goes, his last race and all that good stuff, but it's still a wager and it's still a bet. And when I'm betting, I'm not going to bet 4 to 5, and I'm going to try to get a 15-1 shot Frosted on top. And if I can get that exacta with American Pharoah, that should be a nice little 1-2 punch. But there are great rolls of the dice all weekend long. There's 13 Breeders' Cup races, so this will just be 1 of 13 for me.
Kevin, what do you think about the weather? And what I read is the weather is going to be concerning considering there's calling for showers. So obviously with a muddy track, American Pharoah has shown in the Preakness that he can run and romp in the mud, and especially if it's his last race, less fear as far as injury. Is that going to come into into other jockeys or other horses, not being as aggressive?
Well, it did in the Preakness. They just gave him the front end, and you saw how lethal American Pharoah can be when you just give the horse the front end. But, it rained early in the week. I think Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they got a couple inches of rain. But I watched the races today on my laptop. It was drying out today. There was wind and some sunshine in the Lexington area. And the forecast was really good for tomorrow. Friday is going to be a textbook day. It's going to be 60 and mostly sunny all day. And so the turf course is still going to be wet. It takes that grass course multiple days to dry out. But they're thinking at some point tomorrow that the track, which was good or muddy today, might be listed as fast as maybe as soon as mid-card tomorrow. And the forecast for Saturday is there's a chance of showers, but the showers now, they've kind of changed their outlook, and it might miss the Lexington area. So my best guess as we sit here right now on Thursday night is it's going to be a fast track, and the turf course will have some moisture in it for the grass races. But where Pharoah runs on the main track, it's probably going to be closer to the fast side of things. He's versatile up where it won't matter. I mean, a wet track probably gives him the best chance to win, but either way, he's going to take some real beating in this race. I mean, he really does have his other 8 combatants over the barrel with his speed and with the lack of speed in the race. Now that the holder's out, it's going to be the front end for American Pharoah or bust, and I think it's going to be a jockey's race from there. And when you go, who puts pressure on him and who reaps the benefits in the tail end? Because I do think at this longer distance at 1.25 miles, he'll have to earn it at some point. These are Breeders' Cup horses. It's not going to be a walk in the park, and at some point late in the game, someone's going to make some kind of a run at him. Maybe it's Tonalist, maybe it's Frosted, maybe it's a horse like Honor Code, who's also one of the favorites. But there's enough drama around where I think the average sports fan will tune in at 4:30 on Saturday and want to see how it all plays out.
And you're going to be there all weekend, right? Saturday and Sunday. What's your plan over there? What's going on at Canterbury?
Well, I'm going to be there in spirit, Kendall. I'm making my wages tonight here when I do the seminar. But since I'm working Wild home game Friday, Wild road game in St. Louis Saturday, I'm going to be watching a lot of these races either on the television or on my phone. And that's the unique thing with technology today is you can take the races with you. But I'm making all my wagers tonight, and if fans want to come out to Canterbury at any point between now and the weekend, the windows are going to be open all day and all night. You can make all your wagers for the Breeders' Cup early and sit back and enjoy the races. And, outside of the Classic, there are so many cool races. I know, Kendall, you and I talked before the show in our preparation time. before we went on the air about a horse named Run Happy who runs in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. The Sprint is a 6 furlong race, so it's a much shorter race, and it's the fastest horses in the world. And the favorite in that race is a horse named Run Happy. And Run Happy has just been a freak. It's a 3-year-old that just came onto the scene, handful of races in his career for a no-name trainer named Maria Burrell, who we'd never heard of in the game. And Ken, I know Jeff Ledet and yourself had a conversation about this horse and this trainer, but it's one of the bigger stories we're going to see unfold this weekend. Run Happy, certainly one of the favorites to win in that sprint, and you won't find a faster horse on the ground at Keeneland this weekend.
Perfect. I know if people that want to bet on something that it's more of a story, like a heartstrings cool story, that is definitely a horse that you want to bet on. Run Happy with the trainer Maria Burrell. And I thought that there was an article about it in the Washington Post that, for anybody who's interested in reading a little bit on it, like what are you guys talking about, that is one to read. And it's one of those cool human interest sports stories that you get so much of in this industry, which is what makes sports so amazing. Do you have anything else to add, Gorg?
Well, I think that the other interesting story that you're going to see unfold on Saturday is the race right before the Breeders' Cup Classic, and it's my last tout of the day, and I'll throw it out. There's a horse in the race named Golden Horn, and Golden Horn is a European horse that's racing in the States here for the first time. He just won the most important turf race in the world. It's in France. It's called the Arc de Triomphe. It's their Kentucky Derby of turf races. This horse is an amazing equine athlete, but it's a whole different story when you come to the States. And even though Golden Horn is 7 for 8, he's earned over $6 million, and he's a huge favorite with the punters over in Europe. There might be a situation here where this horse gets beat. You factor in he just ran the race of his life in the Arc on October 4th. He's had to ship over and now try very unfamiliar surroundings in this Breeders' Cup turf race. There's a horse called the Pizza Man, and he's a 10 horse in the Breeders' Cup turf, the race that goes off a little before 4 o'clock, right before the Breeders' Cup Classic. The Pizza Man, race 10 on Saturday, horse number 10. He's won the Arlington Million. He's run well at Keeneland, and he's one of those really cool horses with one of those really cool names where if you're just out there having a good time, you want to throw $20 on a horse that might bring you back $200 or $300, why not give the Pizza Man a call, see if he delivers a winner into the winner's circle. I'm betting him. I think he can win the race. I love Golden Horn. I respect that he's coming over after winning the Arc, but screw the Europeans. I'm going for the red, white, and blue. I'm going for the Pizza Man, guys.
I love the delivery comment. I was waiting for somebody to say it, but well done.
Touche.
That's all I got in the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to let you two kids close out the show at Patrick McGovern's. And Scott, I want to personally thank you for coming and helping us out, and I hope I can join you guys at Bennett's here sometime in the near future to talk a little wild hockey with you guys.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gorg. And, of course, thanks, Scott, for hanging out with me today so I'm not so lonely here.
No problem.
At McGovern's. I really appreciate it. And if you guys like our show, you guys will absolutely love Wild Wednesdays. Definitely give it a try. You can find it on aliveandsocial.com under the sports section, just like you can find our show, The Sports Ticket. We really want to say thank you so much to Patrick McGovern's Pub for being one of our sponsors, and Coors Light. You guys have a fabulous and safe Halloween. We will see you on Monday.